So overall, the internet is just one way that people find work. We find work in a lot of different ways. For many people of a certain age, like myself, we might have started to look for work in the newspaper. I'm not saying you can't still do that, but even the newspaper now has an online aspect. In fact, that's how most people engage with newspaper ads, is through online. So obviously, internet has become a large part of job search. That does not mean it's the only part of job search. Just because I'm going to be talking about almost exclusively internet and social media here, do not put all of your eggs in that basket. You should still be looking at face-to-face networking. You should be looking at maybe the daily paper, maybe want ads posted on a billboard, wherever. It all works. Whatever gets you to the job is effective. The internet and social media is just one of the tools we use. So here's the way we find jobs generally. We find them through advertised jobs, but not all exclusively. Many jobs are not advertised in the way we're used to seeing them. They're advertised through word of mouth. They're advertised through possibly avenues that you haven't looked at before. I'm going to show you a bunch of avenues that advertised jobs can be found at, but keep in mind that most jobs are never posted. Now, a lot of these jobs are filled through promotions, but in many cases, an employer would rather, if they can, hire someone they know is going to work out, meaning that they have gotten a referral from someone who they know, like, and trust. And when I talk about networking, I put it in those terms: know, like, and trust, and said, hey, this person is really good. So rather than having to post a job, having to interview 5 people, having to go through a month-long process, they'd much rather just get someone they know that can do the job. That's not always something they can do, and in many cases they can't do that because of their internal processes. But keep in mind that networking, face-to-face networking, is always going to be extremely important in your job search. But we're going to talk a little bit about advertised jobs now. So with advertised jobs, you want to focus on specific job boards that yield results. There are an enormous amount of products out there, and many of them steal from each other or borrow from each other. So you're going to find what works for you, what works for your industry. Certainly try other avenues. If you hear about a new thing that boy, my friend told me that this is a great site, certainly look at it. But you don't want to spend all day, every day, going to every possible job board and applying for jobs over and over and over again. You get into a situation there where you're dealing with a lot of quantity and not as much quality. So you really want to focus on job boards that yield results. Don't try to look everywhere at once. You also want to look beyond the job title. Some jobs you qualify for maybe not have the title you expect. So many people in my line of work consider themselves to be trainers. Maybe they're looking for a facilitator. Maybe they're looking for an educator. There's a lot of different ways to title what you do. So look beyond the job title and look at the skills they're looking for. You also want to prioritize what you find. This is something I've said for my entire time in job search, teaching job search skills and in placement, is on time is better than perfect. Meaning that if you find something that seems like just a great fit for you, don't try to get everything you possibly can do and apply at the very last minute, because last in is not looked at the same as first in. I'm not saying you rush through an application, but get as much together as you can. Make sure you've done as much prep work for your job search before you even start it, before you even start applying. That means getting a standard resume together, making sure all your dates are right, getting maybe some references together, getting a sample cover letter together, so that when a job that you're interested in appears, you can prioritize that and quickly apply for it. I used to run a job club every Wednesday. And I remember one situation in which someone came in, wanted some help with their application, and had everything but maybe a date or two. And so we filled it all out. It was a great fit. I knew they'd be happy there, or at least I thought they'd be happy at this job. And I was very excited they were applying for it. When we got to those last 2 dates, they said, oh, I've got that at home. I'll go home tonight. I'll put those in and I'll submit it. So the next Wednesday came, And that person came back and I said, how did it go? They said, I've got that information now. I'm ready to apply. Let's finish this up. Well, at that point, the job had closed. So it's extremely important to jump on opportunities when they present themselves, because sometimes they'll even close out before you expect because they're at a cap. Maybe they're only going to take 40 applicants or 50 applicants. So respond immediately to a posted position that you're interested in. You do want to use caution on the internet. Even though what we're going to be talking about today is a lot about the internet, you should still use caution. There are scams out there. There are some sites that are really good, but also have scams. I promote minnesotaworks.net because I happen to know from both sides of the equation that it is as safe as a job board can be. All employers are vetted on Minnesota Works, meaning that we call them on the phone to make sure they're who they say they are. They have to pay into unemployment taxes just to get on this site. So there's no kind of tiered marketing schemes on there or anything like that. So some of the sites to be careful of is something like Craigslist. I know some employers that get great applicants off Craigslist. I know some people who have gotten great jobs off Craigslist, but I also know some scams on Craigslist. So I'm not saying don't use it. I'm just saying use caution on it. Always make sure that you know who you're applying to. Now, there is one exception to this. Sometimes you may be applying to an employer through a staffing agency and they don't give you the name. I get that that's uncomfortable, but sometimes they're not allowed to. Your employer is actually the staffing agency at that point, so that's why they do that. They don't want people to reach out directly to the employer they're representing, because that takes out the middleman, and that's why they're there. But if you are going for an interview for a company, you should always know who they are, what they do. Always meet in a public location. I know that seems silly, but I've run into situations where people have met someone at Perkins, and it was a bit of a scam. So, and then you always want to follow up with a phone call if you can. It's not always possible. It's not always comfortable, but there are some employers that are looking for that contact after you apply. Some employers are not going to be open to that, but I don't think it's ever a bad idea to attempt it, because I have run into situations where that's turned into an interview on the spot. I've also run into situations where employers made it fairly clear that, we'll contact you, don't worry about it. As long as you don't bug them by calling over and over again, they generally do appreciate that follow through. Okay, let's see here. See if we've got some sound issues. I'll tell you what I will do, and I apologize if you're having sound issues here. I will turn off my video just to see if that helps. And okay. All right, you can always go into your settings and switch to call me, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see if this gets a little bit better. Excellent. Okay. So I talked a little bit about Minnesota Works. It is Minnesota's single largest database of jobs. If I were to bring up the website, and maybe I can do it quickly. I'll see if I can do it really fast, because I like bringing this up because it immediately would tell you how many jobs are on the site. Let me just quickly bring this up. You'll see here that there are 107,321 jobs currently posted. There are 17,000 active resumes for that number. So it's like 9 to 1 of jobs to job seekers currently. Now, I have had many people, when I say that, will say, well, these aren't the jobs I want. Okay, I get that. They're not every job is the job you want. But if you look, you look daily, and this should be part of your daily ritual in job hunting, is you will find something that is close to your needs, or at least get you an idea of who is hiring. Still breaking up. Not sure exactly what's going on there. Tell you what I'll do is, if this, I'll look at the recording. Sometimes it's my end, sometimes it's the other end. If the recording is really broken up, I will send you a previous recording of this that you can view. We are recording today. I do send the recording out by the end of the day tomorrow. Hopefully it gets fixed. So what this does This is just a site that employers can freely post their jobs to. I've been an employer who has hired off Minnesota Works. I've been a job seeker who has found jobs off Minnesota Works. So I've been on both sides of the equation. It is an older site. However, it's still used very widely and is as safe as these job sites can be. There are other sites like Indeed, Simply Hired, that cannot access some of the jobs that we have on Minnesota Works. Although some people really like Indeed and Glassdoor, and I think Monster is still out there. All employers on Minnesota Works, as I mentioned, are verified. So something to keep in mind, that even though these aggregate sites that just kind of collect everything, you should also be looking at individual employer sites. This is something I really stress when I'm doing job counseling, is that when you look at a site like this, you're kind of just seeing what's out there. When you look at an individual employer site, you have a purpose. You've identified an employer that you're interested in, that has jobs potentially that you would be happy doing, and you're looking for a more direct connection. And sometimes you're going to see jobs on employer sites that you won't find elsewhere, especially with state work. You know, the state work in many cases, they can only post to their website, which is really weird, but they can only do that. So those are the websites you bookmark and make sure you're checking on a daily basis, so that if a job is only posted for a few days, you're not missing it. And it's not going to be seen alongside tens of thousands of other jobs. It's easier to filter out individual employer websites. All right. So we're going to go on to the thing to avoid, which is job board addiction. Job board addiction is something that is a real thing. It's not maybe a medical term, but it's something that I've seen through the course of my career as soon as we started getting jobs posted online. In the past, I used to have, many years ago, many filing cabinets full of applications. When I closed the business I was part of, I had to throw out thousands or recycle thousands of applications, because employers found that if they posted their applications online, it saved them a lot of money. So everyone started to putting, not everyone, but most people started putting their jobs online. And this created a very easy way for people to apply. You could go online and you could apply for 10 jobs in maybe the time it would take you to drive to an employer and apply for one job. Oh, great question. Melanie asked a question here. She says, I have issues with searching on Minnesota Works. How do you narrow your search? Well, we don't have time to go into that, but I have put together a presentation specific to that. I'll include the link. It's just a YouTube link, and it really kind of narrows down how you can effectively filter your jobs. It really works well once you know, but like everything else, until you know, it's useless to you. So there are some really good filtering tools on Minnesota Works that I'll include in my follow-up email. So, okay, let's continue here. And by the way, just because you see something that says it's associated with Minnesota Works does not necessarily mean it came from Minnesota Works. So always be careful about that. Just as a point of, I got a text from someone that said they were from Minnesota Unemployment. By the way, Minnesota Unemployment will never text you. They won't call you. They will mail you information. And this was a phishing scheme. So you always got to be careful. Just because someone says they're from someplace does not mean they are from that place. Although if you do say you're open to being recruited, some people will call you. I've been called from recruiters that have found my resume on Minnesota Works, and they have been good jobs. But like everything, every time you get a call, you should ask what it is, get all the information before you move forward with applying or coming in. So as far as job board addiction, the idea is most people apply online at some place, but 75% of people find their next job through some form of networking. Doesn't mean that it didn't end up as an online application, but it started with a heads up from someone they knew. They said, hey, this place is hiring. I put in a good word for you. You're probably still going to have to go and apply. But you want to balance your time online with networking and self-marketing, because if you don't do that, you find that you are just applying for jobs day after day after day. And I realize why people do that, because it's less personal and in many cases easier, because you're not putting yourself out there. In job search, I make myself as uncomfortable as I possibly can for as short a period as I possibly can. And the more uncomfortable I make myself, the shorter my job search seems to be. And I really think that's true. People who are willing to put themselves out there stand out. So if they're willing to cold call, if they're willing to stop in, if they're willing to do a cover letter that other people saw as optional, they're doing what other people are not willing to do, and they stand out. So you really want to balance your time there. Yes, and it's hard for introverts to network. I truly understand that. It's a point, and that's why it's so uncomfortable. But remember, you're competing against people that might be extroverts. So they're using the skills they have to make themselves stand out. So we, and I'm an extreme introvert myself, have to go outside of our comfort zone and at least attempt it to kind of balance out the scales. Because at this point, it's all about marketing. Before you can do the job, you have to talk about it. And talking about what you can do well is marketing. So this is my favorite slide. I love it because it really points out how effective networking is done. Has anyone heard of this? I'll try putting my video on. If this chops it up, I'll turn it back off. But has anyone ever heard of the term 6 degrees of separation? Just put it in the chat box, yes or no, if you've heard the term 6 degrees of separation. I have, yes. Okay, good. We got one no, then I'm gonna sure have. Okay, so the idea here, usually someone will put Kevin Bacon in the chat because there's a game called 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's the same general idea. The idea is that we're all connected worldwide through a maximum of 6 degrees of separation. That means that I know my cousin Tom. My cousin Tom knows a person named Jennifer. So that's 2 degrees of separation. Well, in this case, it shows my cousin Mary, and then Mary's friend Tom. The idea here is everyone, on average, knows 300 people on a first name basis. And if you start saying, I know someone, and that person knows 299 other people that I may not know, that's 1 degree of separation to 299 potential contacts, potential people with opportunities or ideas. This works very well to level 2 contacts. It can work up to level 4. I've seen a house sold in the Duluth area because of a 4th degree connection. Now, at some point, it gets a little ridiculous, a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend, but the idea here is the more people you specifically inform of your needs, not that I'll do anything, that's not a need, that's desperation, which may be very real to you, but I'm looking for a job as a blank. That's specific information. If you tell enough people that, people generally want to help if they can. Remember, if you're putting out their information that they can't identify with or latch on to a need or a way they can help, you're just talking. Networking is talking with a purpose. It's sharing information, and it's also being willing to help other people. In networking circles, we call that giver's gain. The more you help, the more people help you. But it's something we all naturally do, whether we know what the term networking means or not. Effective networkers get jobs much quicker than people who are, I guess, not understanding the process. Good, I've heard that story. Yeah. So anyways, it's something to think about, and it can be done online. The key is, and I'm going to show you on LinkedIn how to very effectively get to your 2nd degree or your next degree of connection. Once you find the person, though, make it as personal as you can. Use the internet as a tool to network, but a true effective networking doesn't happen over text or over emails or over instant messaging. It happens by talking to people, by meeting people, by asking questions and receiving information. And we'll talk how you do that specifically with LinkedIn here in just a moment. So when we think about who is in our network, it can be virtually anybody. We don't use friends and family generally um, in references, but they certainly are within our network. In fact, they're some of our most effective networks. But here's the weird thing that I found out. Even though our friends and family are the people who know us the best and who want to help us the most, they're not necessarily as informed as a more casual acquaintance would be about our work skills. So the example I always give is my dad, who is the hardest working person I have ever met, did a job for 40 years at a place that I drive by, a couple times a year. I really don't know what he did there. I honestly don't, because he didn't bring home work with him and he didn't talk about it. I know he was a good worker because of what I witnessed and from his friends that would talk about how great he was and all that kind of stuff, which was awesome to hear. But think about it. I was the job service manager for northeastern Minnesota, and I wouldn't have been able to help my dad get a job. And the reason was I didn't know what he had to offer. He hadn't informed me of his skill sets and of his needs. Not that he was looking for a job, but you get the idea. So don't assume your friends and family know what you can do or where you want to do it. When you're looking for work, you still have conversations. It's not about, asking people to do things for you. But when people ask that question, what are you doing now? The natural answer when you're unemployed is, well, I'm looking for work. Instead of saying I'm looking for work, saying, well, what I'm doing is I'm looking for a new opportunity in the warehouse field. You probably know for the last 20 years, I've been a warehouse supervisor, and I'm really looking at refrigerated spaces because I've got some special knowledge of that. Okay, that took 10 seconds. It took 10 seconds for me to answer a question that was already asked. It was open for that. I didn't go on and on, but now that person who already knows, likes, and trusts me has the information to help me. And that's what true networking is. Some people call that an elevator speech. There's a lot of different terms for it. There's a lot of different lengths given the situation or the information where you're putting that information out there. It could be a social gathering. It could be a networking group. It could be a lot of different things. So tailor your answer to the question that's going to be asked anytime you meet somebody. What are you up to? Or if you meet someone for the first time, the second question they're going to ask you is, what do you do? When you're looking for work, say, well, I've worked for 20 years in the warehouse field. Right now, I'm looking to specialize in refrigerated spaces because that's where I really have some specialized knowledge. Now, that person may or may not have any leads there, but I guarantee you they wouldn't have guessed that they could have made that connection if you hadn't given them that specific information. Okay. Former supervisors are the best. I've gotten a few jobs with their help. Yep. But don't limit. Even though you think of bosses, so if I think of networking right now, I'm like, oh, my last boss would be perfect. And by the way, my last boss did end up giving me the final tipping point to the job I currently have. That's great, but don't limit yourself. Think of outside the box, beyond friends and family, beyond supervisors. They can be former vendors, people you bought things from. They can be former clients. They could be civic groups. They can be your church group. I've seen jobs gotten over the pew at church. I honestly have. And the reason was people knew each other, they liked each other, they wanted to help each other, and they were giving specific information that allowed that to happen. And there are a lot of networking groups throughout the state of Minnesota. You can find them. If you want to look specific to your area, I'm going to mention this a couple times. It's a really good idea. We have something open right now called in-person, over the phone, or online appointments. The 16 centers, or called comprehensive centers of CareerForce locations throughout the state, are now open for in-person, over the phone, or online appointments. Over the last year, we haven't had a whole lot of opportunity to do that. We're trying to very safely transition to more in-person services. So if you go to the CareerForce locator that I'm going to send everybody, or just go to careerforcemn.com, go to the locations, and you can look at what is the closest location to you, and you can sign up for an in-person appointment. And you can also do that over the phone or online. They're going to be able to give you specific information based on your area about what is available. And that'd be a great question to ask. Do you know of any networking groups in this area? We run some ourselves in the metro. We run some in northwestern Minnesota, northeastern Minnesota. In the past, we're not currently doing them because of group situations, but there are some online networking groups that are going on. All right. So anyways, you can sign up for half-hour sessions there. I'll try to give you some more information in the follow-up, but always have a purpose. Just like networking, always have a purpose when you're talking to someone. So if you do sign up for one of those appointments, maybe it's for a resume review. Maybe it's to develop a elevator pitch. Maybe it's to do a mock interview. There's a lot of different things you can do. They're wide open, but you should have a purpose when you sign up for one of them, what you want to accomplish. All right, so when you make contact with employers, sometimes it starts with a phone call. Many people ask to speak to the hiring manager. It doesn't always work. In certain situations, it's not going to work at all, but it can. I've had it happen. It's sometimes odd to get that call where someone says, hey, I'd really like to speak to your hiring manager. And they use that as a means to introduce. You're going to hear no many times. I always say, I know I'm truly job searching when I hear no a lot. That means I'm going outside of my comfort zone. I try to take it personally, although it's hard to do that. I just think of it as part of the process. All it takes is one yes. It really does. I'll deal with 9 no's to hear 1 yes. You can ask for informational interviews or just having conversations. I always like to have a warm introduction. And I'll show you again on when we get to LinkedIn how you get that warm introduction to an employer. But some people will not even need that. They're very confident and they will cold call an employer and ask for something called an informational interview. Now, an informational interview is finding out more information about a company that you're interested in. It's not bypassing the application process. It's not shoving your resume in someone's face. It's truly researching and getting to know a company on a personal level to see if it's worth applying to them and seeing if you would be a good fit there. They may ask for your resume during that process and certainly bring it with you, but I always try not to give them the impression that I'm meeting with them under false pretenses. A lot of college graduates have to do informational interviews within their field as part of their graduation requirements. I know even high school students in my area, we set up informational interviews with local employers just to get that ball rolling. But if you're doing it yourself and doing it for the first time, it can be somewhat uncomfortable. However, it's a great tool. It's a great tool, especially if you have a barrier to employment. For someone who has a barrier to employment, like long-term unemployment, or maybe they have what would appear to be an obvious disability, when an employer is talking with you for 20 minutes and you're asking engaging questions and you're showing interest and you're answering some of their questions, a lot of those barriers go away because they see the value. If I see the barrier on a piece of paper, it's really hard to overcome that. So something to consider. You can Google informational interviews or take one of our interview classes to find out more. But whatever it is, you initiate that next step in every conversation and you follow through. If you say you're going to do something, like, oh yeah, I'll send you an email with my resume because you asked for it, or yes, I'll send you that information about what we talked about. You've got one chance to make an impression on your follow through. Make sure you do it. That Indeed offered an area where people can put reviews about a company. Okay, someone's talking a little bit about reviews on companies, and those are fine. Glassdoor does reviews. You can Indeed does it. They allow people to give reviews on on the company they work at. I always think it's a better idea to go and talk to someone who currently works there. I always think that's best. And I always ask the question, what do you like best about working here? The reason is many of the reviews you get, not all of them, but many of the reviews you get will be from disgruntled former employees, especially for large companies that hire and let go of lots of people during a given year. Now, of course, if you're seeing all bad reviews, certainly take that into consideration, but don't let one bad impression that someone gave you give you the full story of a company, because every company at some point, if they're in business long enough, has a disgruntled former employee. And also, whatever happens in that conversation, whatever happens within networking, you always want to display a positive attitude, even if you're not feeling it at the time, because people remember how you made them feel often more than what you said. So if they see you as a positive person, you're someone that they want to maintain contact or a relationship with, even if it's just casual. I mean, even if it's you don't have the skills we need. If it's a positive attitude, sometimes that leads to opportunities in another job within that company. And that's happened to me in interviews, by the way. And this is really important. At the end of an interview, if you get that no, if they call you back and say no, again, you don't have to be happy about it, but you should have a positive attitude about thanking them for the opportunity to learn more about their company. Because it just happened last week. I was talking to someone who they had hired someone, and then a new opportunity came up, a new job was offered, and rather than re-interviewing, they went to the next candidate down. I've also been in situations where someone didn't work out, and rather than re-interviewing, they went to the second choice candidate. So always leave everyone with a reason to continue that relationship, especially at the end of an interview. So as far as telephone communication, I know it sounds silly, but you want to dress well. You want to make sure that you are feeling as professional as you want to be looked at, meaning that the better you feel, the more professional you feel, the better impression you're likely to give off to employers, even if it's only over the phone. If you're going to do it on a video conference, again, dress well, dress completely well, the nice pants, the nice shoes, even if you're not on camera, because you're just going to feel more professional. You're going to feel more prepared. Always have a purpose when you're calling an employer. Some people finally get down to that person they have to call, and they call them and they don't know what they're going to say. So have talking points. It's okay to have notes, especially on the phone. But even when you're online, you can have your notes taped on the monitor. You can have them on a little holder. Make sure that by the time you get through with that conversation, you've gone through everything you wanted to accomplish, or at least the general overall purpose of the call. And smile, even on the phone. A smile comes over the phone. It's amazing. You can tell when someone has a good expression on their face simply by their tone of voice. And then you want to practice. Telephone communications are often part of the screening part of an interview. In many cases, because of the pandemic, they're also maybe how the interview takes place. It could also take place like we're doing right now. So practice looking in the camera. Practice setting up your space so you're looking directly in the camera while still being able to see the person who is talking to you. And that's not easy to do, by the way. All situations are different. All camera, laptop, webcams have a different setup. So make sure you're comfortable with that. One of the things you can ask for when you do a in-person or over the phone or online appointment with a CareerForce representative is to maybe practice an online mock interview if you haven't done them before. But also, it's a way you can network now. Oh, let's see. I'm taking a look. See, there's a lot of conversation going on. That's great. Okay, so it says, could you talk about the sources where we can get an idea for a salary range for specific, easy for me to say, specific position other than Glassdoor? Well, what I have found, there's several different things. There's the Deed salary survey. I can give the website link to that. It gives you an area what a job generally pays. If there are at least 3 employers in that area, they will give you a range. And by the way, no job is going to say, here's exactly what we'll pay you. It's based on a whole bunch of things. They're based on what you bring to the table. So for even some large employees, there is a range that they will pay. I know it's frustrating that employers don't tell you the wage right off the bat, but if you network, if you research enough, you should be able to find out about what it pays. So that's where talking to someone who works at a company can give you some insider information, getting introduced to a friend of a friend who works at a company. I've seen this happen hundreds of times. I never ask, what do you make? I say, do you know what a person starting out at this position generally makes? And then that doesn't make it as personal, and they're going to give you that information if they have it or they can find it out. The reason employers don't post a wage for a position right off the bat is because when someone sees the wage, everything else seems to just go by the wayside, and that's what the person focuses their entire job search on. I get that we all have to make a certain amount, but if that's your only reason for applying for a position, that's not a good reason for someone to hire you, because people who apply for wage only will then go to another employer as soon as a higher wage becomes available. Look at the full picture. Look at not only the hourly wage, look at the benefits, the fringe, whatever that is. Look at the company culture. Look at the longevity of people who work in that culture. All those things are going to lead to whether this job is a good fit for you. I had an employer that I screened applicants for. We screened 500 applicants for a job, and the job at the time paid $22 an hour, entry level, no experience required. That's why we got 500 people, because the only thing they saw was $22 an hour, no experience required. We had everyone that could get there apply for it, and I would say maybe a quarter of them were actually interested in the position. The rest of them only saw that wage, and I know that's really frustrating for us as job seekers. Number one thing I want to know is, how much is this paying, so I can find out if it's worth applying. If I really want the job enough, I can research that. It's not always easy. It's not always the same research, but you can generally find out. All right, we're going to move on. And social media. We're going to spend the last 20 minutes talking about social media. Specifically, we're going to focus on LinkedIn. However, there are a lot of social media sites out there that can be beneficial. Now, I'm first going to deal with the situation in which someone may say, I don't do social media. I don't want to put my information out there. I don't care what someone had for breakfast yesterday or want to see a picture of it. I get that, okay? That's not this. This is using social media as a tool to get your next job. You do not have to post daily on your activities, but it is a good idea to have accounts, because that's how employers find workers. In many cases, more and more, Facebook is becoming part of that. So do you have to interact or get tons and tons of friends? No, but it's a good idea to have a Facebook account. I hadn't been on Facebook for 6 months until I was at a meeting in St. Paul last week, and there was a Facebook Live event, which actually I think is going on right now. That there was 3 weeks of these Facebook Live events going on, and I needed to present it during a meeting. And having a Facebook account allowed me to do that, and allowed me to put it on the screen. Facebook is used for a lot more than simply chatting and posting pictures now. It's used for business. It's used for selling things on Facebook Marketplace. It's also used for getting work. Twitter in larger cities is a very relevant job search strategy. I haven't been real effective with it myself. However, if I'm interested in a company, I follow all of their feeds. And the reason for that is I get instant notification of an opportunity. What social media allows for, if it's done right, is for jobs to find you instead of you searching out jobs. Because you're following the companies you're interested in, that information comes to you, especially on LinkedIn. As far as blogs and that sort of thing, there's you can make a case for any social media platform, but we're gonna focus on LinkedIn. Some studies show that 80% of employers will try to find information online about a candidate before an interview, whether they'll admit it or not openly. We're all human. We all might scope out someone and say, oh, I wonder if they have a Facebook account, because I'm going to interview them tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to be a waste of our time. When I used to do job placement, I would do that with each of my clients. I would get their permission first, but I would say, okay, here's what happens. And I was working with this young person that was 20 years old, and we Googled her name. Her Facebook account came up, and the first thing we saw was a picture of her drinking a Bud Light, which meant she was guilty of underage drinking, and it ends there. It ends at that point. An employer's not going to go any further. And you may agree with that, you may disagree with that, but it is the reality of what we put online does follow us, whether we have a lockdown account or not. If you have a lockdown account, think of it this way. We get most of our jobs through networking. Who do we network with? We network with our friends and family. We're looking to them to lead us to jobs. If we're putting inappropriate content out on Facebook, they may know us, they may like us, but they may not trust us enough to put their reputation on the line by giving a referral. So I think it's really important that everything we have on our social media, especially during a job search, is not going to hurt us. Doesn't mean we can't have fun. You can have tons of fun. Just make sure that you're not putting yourself on real political rants or whatever. Have those conversations one-on-one. When you put something out on a social media post, you either improve or lower the trust that your entire network has with you, because you're putting it all out there for everyone. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox on that. And let's talk about LinkedIn. Now, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, LinkedIn is a platform that changes almost daily. There's one thing I noticed this morning that changed that I'm going to show you an addendum to, and I'll fix it on the slide deck before I send it out tomorrow. But LinkedIn does have a really good help menu. So if you go to LinkedIn Help, there are training videos on pretty much anything you want to do. LinkedIn is an enormous, enormous program. Does anyone know who owns the LinkedIn platform right now? I'm going to look in the thing here. No? Okay. No? Oh, it's good. Good. Microsoft owns it. Microsoft bought LinkedIn. They don't put it way out there, but it's always been a big one. I've been on it since it started, but it was bought by Microsoft, and now it even has even more tools, and it's being developed even more actively. So if you have an old manual on LinkedIn, I used to put together a manual for LinkedIn. I stopped because it was just too much work. It changes so readily, but the tools are always going to be there through the help menu. So you can certainly go there. I'm going to show you two things on LinkedIn simply because there is so much to it. What we're going to do is we're going to research a company through LinkedIn. Now, by the way, if you don't have a LinkedIn account, you don't have to have a LinkedIn account, but I'm hoping because you're here today that you're interested in at least learning some more about it. A LinkedIn account is free. The question I get quite a bit is, do I need to buy a premium account for this to be worth my while? Does anyone have a premium LinkedIn account? You can just say yes if you're comfortable doing that. So we have one person here that does. A couple people do, and some people had one. You can get a free account for a while. Just be careful about the payment structure and know how to cancel it and that sort of thing. Okay, there are reasons to get a premium account. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. However, I will never get one simply because of what I use it for. It's extremely effective as a free account. If it weren't effective as a free account, it wouldn't exist. LinkedIn's in a weird kind of situation that Facebook never got into. I always ask a question of everybody. I say, in a group setting, if Facebook charged you $25 a month, would you be on it? And I've never had someone say, yes, I would. So Facebook makes its money in many ways like LinkedIn does, through ads, through targeted ads. And the reason Facebook doesn't charge you is because you give them access to an audience for their ads. LinkedIn does too, but LinkedIn makes a little bit of extra money by giving premium features. I met with LinkedIn myself a few years ago, or a couple of years ago, and I asked them directly, can I tell job seekers that they don't have to have a premium account? Is it still effective? And they said, absolutely, it's effective as a standard account. There's just more options. All right. So I'm going to show you one of the biggest tools I use LinkedIn for. And by the way, you can engage at so many different levels on LinkedIn. And this is just a company search. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to type in a company that I've been interested in for several years. It's called Saturn Systems. They're a software company. So you just go into the search box there and you type in the name of the company. Now, if the company exists on LinkedIn, you will get a match, a direct match. So make sure you're typing it in correctly. And what this is going to do is give you their webpage, their LinkedIn account. And you're going to see things like how many people they have employed, what their employees do, all sorts of different things. But you can also find who is on LinkedIn. So if I click on employees, I can see, now I took the names off, and this is the weird thing about LinkedIn and teaching in a statewide. I don't want to put anyone's picture or their name out there without their permission. So I really, really carefully whited out all the information that was personally identifying. So I look at this and I see that, okay, here's an office and HR administrator on LinkedIn. And I see that we have 23 shared connections. Okay, what that means is we are connected through 1 degree of separation. We have a mutual friend in common. And that means that I have 23 people potentially that could introduce me to this person, that could vouch for me, that say, oh yeah, Art's really good Python programmer. I've worked with him on several projects. He was looking for an informational interview. Would you be comfortable if he reached out to you on that? Great, now he's expecting my call. Now, because of this, I want to point out one of the ways I use LinkedIn. Some people will connect with everybody on LinkedIn. They'll think, oh, I went to a seminar, I met, so there was 500 people there. I'm going to send a LinkedIn request because I found the list. I choose not to do it that way. I'm not saying that's a bad idea. Some people do that and they find value in that. The reason I don't is I always have a test. If someone connects with me on LinkedIn, I ask myself, have I experienced some value in their work? Do I know something about them? Would I make a warm introduction to one of my connections? If not, I don't say no. I leave it there and I wait for that relationship to develop. Now, I'm not saying you have to do it this way, but for me, what this guarantees is I could reach out to any of these 23 people because I've already passed that test. I've already passed the test. I don't know if on their side, but on my side, I value their work. I've worked with them. I know enough about them that I would refer them. I'm hoping they would do that too. So all of these connections are genuine connections for me. And that means I only have maybe 300 connections, but that's fine. Anytime you get over like 40, you've kind of reached that tipping point of LinkedIn becoming a very valuable resource for you. And of course, the more you get that are real connections, the more valuable it's going to be. But you do not have to try to reach 1,000 people. In fact, I think they cut you off at some point. It's not a game. It's not a contest to see who can get the most connections. All right. Now, what you do with at that point is make it as personal as possible. Once you've gotten that connection, once someone has said he'll be expecting your call, or I've reached out, or whatever, now take it offline. Don't message them on LinkedIn because it's really hard to have a conversation through LinkedIn messaging. At least I find it very awkward, especially if it's a three-way conversation. Call that person directly. Feel free to name drop because, hey, I reached out to my friend John and asked if he could, make a warm introduction for me. I appreciate you taking this call. That's not bragging. That's just saying why you're calling and who you know in common. LinkedIn I think this does this better than any other platform out there because this is as professional a platform as you're going to run into. Facebook, you can do some similar things on, but that's friends, that's acquaintances. LinkedIn is all about business. When you post on LinkedIn, it should be professional things you post. The assumption is we're doing business here. And for the most part, it is all about that. All right. Look. Okay. Is there a way on LinkedIn to hide me viewing someone's profile? Example, I want to check out people interviewing me without them knowing. And so there is a way of, well, there's a couple different ways. And on LinkedIn, it's not like Facebook. When you click on someone's profile, like if I clicked directly on this person, it would say that Art Larson from the state of Minnesota has viewed your profile. And I like that. I like knowing that. In fact, I always assume that. And that way I don't click on their profile. However, if you do kind of want to look at somebody outside of them seeing that you are there, what you would need to do is log out completely of your LinkedIn and do a public profile search. And in that case, because you're not logged into LinkedIn, it's not going to associate that with. Now, some people's public profile is much less than their contacts profile, so you're not going to see as much information. There is a way of trying to hide your identity through the settings. I don't recommend doing that, because what it's going to say is, someone from the state of Minnesota in a management position in Duluth clicked on your profile. I've seen people try to do that to me and whatever, and I always know who they are, or it just looks weird. It looks like someone's stalking you. And if you completely shut it down where no one can see your whatever, it doesn't allow you can't have it both ways, basically. You can't completely hide yourself with being able to see other people's stuff. So short answer, it can be done. Long answer, knowing that, do different techniques to get to know that person. Use this as a tool to find out where they work, who you know in common. And if you're comfortable, by the way, some people think it's a great idea that if I'm interviewing with someone, I'm going to click on them to learn more information about them. If you're comfortable about that, that's fine. Just be aware that they're probably going to see that you clicked on their profile. All right, I got one more tool to go through in the 9 minutes we have. And that is a kind of a new feature called interview prep feature. And here's a great example of how LinkedIn changes very, very rapidly. It starts off the same. You go to your account and you click on jobs. And once you click on jobs, in the instructions it says here, there's a more option that you would click. But I'm going to show you what today's looks like. So this is my account. I'm not going to go way into this simply because, again, I don't want to expose other people's pictures and information. But once you click on jobs, then there's an interview prep tab right here. Okay, the interview prep tab, once you click on that, it'll give you all sorts of stuff that you can do. It'll talk about challenging questions. It'll tell you how to deal with those challenging questions. It'll give you sample answers to those things. I'm going to caution you here. It's okay to develop your response from a sample answer. Just make it your own. Get the general idea and then make it your own. And here's why. I've interviewed a lot of people over the years, and I hear a lot of the same exact answers over and over and over again. How we phrase things and just general ideas, fine, look that up. But it should be from your personal experience, from your personal knowledge, because that's the only thing that's going to be unique in an interview. If it's the internet answer, I've heard it before. Even if it's the #1 internet answer, when I hear the same answer 5 times in a row, and I've had that, by the way, I've interviewed 5 people and got the same exact answer or very close to the same question over again. And boy, that's just a turnoff. It just makes you feel like they're not really engaging. They're just trying to give me the answers that they know have been vetted and work for other employers. They're not their answers. And when I hear a unique answer, something I haven't heard before, it really, really stands out. And that's where you should do your prep is, look at these things and then develop an answer. Most of the questions that people are going to ask you in the interview are not new questions. They're standard questions. Employers ask standard questions because interviews have to be standardized for the most part, because if they're not, you're asking different questions to different people, and that creates an unfair competition. So they tend to ask more standardized questions, and that's your chance to really shine, to stick out, because what you're going to do is you're going to spend more time developing your personal answer. In an interview class we run, we talk about how to do that for various types of questions, but LinkedIn is a great source for it also. Once you've done that, there's even an opportunity to do interview prep, and you go through all sorts of different things, and you can even get practice and feedback. You can record a video of it, and you can ask for someone to give you either computerized feedback on it, kind of general feedback on it, and they'll give you kind of on these 6 points or whatever, here's where we think you did well, here's where you can improve, tonal quality, all sorts of different things. Or you could ask for someone to look at it and review it. Again, another option is to do a mock interview with a CareerForce representative. But if you're not to that point yet, if you're not to that point where you're comfortable, play around with LinkedIn. It's free. There's a lot of great tools there. In fact, I know of no one who's exhausted all the options on LinkedIn. We all get to a point where we get to what we need and then we move on. But LinkedIn has a lot to offer. So make sure that you're spending some time on it. If you are brand new to LinkedIn, my recommendation is get an account set up. And I'll send everyone a video on the basics of creating an account. Okay, we've already done that, and it's just a real standard click, 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 click. However, once you've created an account, never think of it as over. Always think of it as a work in process. It's more of a profile than your resume is. Resume is specifically targeted. A LinkedIn profile is targeted toward industry generally, not towards an employer. So you don't change your LinkedIn profile every time you apply for a new job. In fact, I would never send my LinkedIn profile as a resume for an application. I've seen people do that, and then they were, flabbergasted. Why didn't I get an interview for this? Obviously I'm well qualified. It wasn't targeted enough. That's why I never use LinkedIn to apply myself. I always create a separate, very targeted resume. But it's another opportunity to market yourself. I'd be a little bit careful if you do two things. Like if you're a bartender, but you're also a programmer, and by the way, there are a lot of people that do those two jobs, you're going to probably put the one you're currently looking for opportunities in. You don't want to create a split digital personality, as it were. So think of LinkedIn as your number one profession, and using that as a marketing tool for that. Can you transfer your Minnesota Works resume to LinkedIn? I'm going to use this as just a general overall guidance, and no one likes to hear this. I never use my resume to cross-populate anything. And the reason is even though it saves a ton of time, in many cases, you're never guaranteed it's going to go into the right place. And if you specifically populate a profile or an application or an online whatever with your information, I'm not saying you can't copy and paste in there, but if you depend on the computer to fill in the right spots, it doesn't always do that. And sometimes it doesn't do it on the first page. It looks good on the first page and you assume it's good, and then you find out that the employer wasn't recognized. And if the employer wasn't recognized, it's not going to allow for a search. When you put employers on LinkedIn, make sure that you are choosing an option that comes up in search that has an icon or a logo. That way it's locked in to that database. Otherwise, employers can't find you based on that information. Same thing with schooling, same thing with certifications. Make sure that you're choosing from a recognized option. I mean, you type it in, but as soon as that option comes up in search, you click on it. I hope that makes sense. All right, just got a couple minutes left here. When you choose to record a video, you can choose to receive artificial intelligence, like I said, feedback, and choose to retake or save your answer. This is also really good practice for those recorded interviews that are part of some applications now. A lot of applications require you to do something very similar to this. And just going through it with really a no harm, no foul approach, you understand the process. By the way, in those applications in which they have you do a video interview, in many cases you can retake an answer also, and certainly make use of that if that's an option that you think you maybe messed up on a question. You can also request feedback from your connections. I would prep this by sending them an email so they don't think this is some sort of scam or whatever. I would send them an email and just say, hey, I sent you a request for feedback on an interview that I just recorded on LinkedIn. I'd really appreciate your opinion. Okay. All right, so what I hope you got today was just some ideas, maybe to enhance what you're already doing, maybe some new tactics to try. I hope I've given you all a reason to call in to CareerForce or to go online and register for an appointment if you have a specific need. We just started this in August, so this is the first month we've been back to in-person appointments. Again, these can be done online or they can be done over the phone. But we have multiple appointments available per week. They're one-person appointments, so you'll just be dealing one-on-one with a job counselor. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate all of the questions, all of the talk back and forth in the chat. I see we have a lot of great resources being spread back and forth. As I said, a recording of this will be sent to you by the end of the day tomorrow, along with the speaker notes, the presentation, which will update with the new screenshot, and some additional information that can hopefully help you in your job search. Have a great day, everyone.